Shah ran through the muddy trail, her torn salwar clinging to her legs, hair soaked and sticking to her face. She threw away her umbrella miles ago, its bent metal spine battered by wind, like her own fears once had been. But tonight she kept going, passing the broken watchtower, the deer trail, the moss-covered stone bench, venturing deeper than ever before. The path narrowed to a breath-wide slit, thorns scratching her calves like curious fingers. Suddenly she stopped. The silence around her was alive, listening. The jungle wasn't quiet. It was watching. The air vibrated with presence, not fear. Sia turned slowly. From the darkness, a flutter, not of wings, but of whispers. Trees creaked in language, leaves shivered in syllables, owls blinked punctuation, crickets chanted riddles. She heard everything, not as noise but as meaning. She has come. She must choose. Shah dropped to her knees, her palm on the warm, breathing earth, whispering, "I'm listening." And the jungle answered. Days after her argument with her mother, the house felt colder, spiritually, not physically. Distance grew in memories, unspoken and heavy. Saudamini left early, returned late, moving like a ghost, still angry she hadn't been remembered. Shah didn't care or told herself she didn't. Then came the call from the hospital. Saudamini collapsed near the municipal office. Faint pulse, internal bleeding. A scan revealed a ticking clot in her brain, unnoticed for months. By the time Sia arrived, her mother was unconscious. She sat beside her in the dim ward, fluorescent lights buzzing like dead flies. Machines blinked, but her mother's eyes didn't. Her fingers looked thinner, her mouth slack. Sia watched her, feeling a shiver, not of fear but confusion. Was this the cost of power? Had she already gone too far? Guilt hit her that night, brutal and holy. Buried beneath her anger was that little girl waiting to be noticed. Now perhaps she never would be. Shah stayed 3 days in the hospital, her school uniform wrinkled in a plastic chair, the jungle unseen, her powers silent. She told no one, no visitors, no friends, not even Kavya, who had begun sitting with her. She had no space for pity or touch. The doctors spoke in numbers, surgery, risk, cost. She listened, nodded, signed, like a shadow in skin. On the third night, as machines beeped fragile hope and nurses changed shifts unnoticed, Sia leaned forward. Her mother's face was smaller, eyes closed, lips parted. She whispered, "You chose this. To suffer alone, to ignore me, to act like I was a side note. I was never your priority, Ma. Not when I cried alone, not when I bled and didn't know who to ask, not when boys laughed at me and I walked home with broken laces. You were always somewhere else. And now, so am I." Her eyes burned, but no tears fell. Saudamini remained in the hospital, unresponsive. The doctors said she'd stir soon, but their words felt distant. Shia sat by her mother's bedside, the room smelling of iron and sanitizer, machines humming stubbornly. Sunlight touched her mother's cheeks like a half-forgiven apology. She could have done it then, walked in, planted words like seeds. You hurt her, you ignored her, you must change. It would work. She'd seen it in others, classmates guilty over cruelties, strangers giving kindness in crowded buses. But with her mother, she didn't. Her fingers curled into her palm. She didn't want a programmed apology or a rewired mother. She wanted truth, raw, unasked, undeserved, but real. Saudamini to wake and say, "I failed you, Sia. I was too tired, too angry to see you bleeding beside me. I see you now, and I'm sorry." But the woman in the bed didn't stir, didn't see her, didn't choose her. Shah left the hospital, wind tugging at her sleeves. That evening she returned to the jungle, not to escape, but to belong. Grief, they say, carves hollows in the soul, but for Sia it opened doors. After her mother's quiet passing, she didn't cry, packed nothing, told no one. The landlord was indifferent. School messages faded into silence. She disappeared like fog at noon, but the jungle waited. Each night under starless skies, Sia returned. Initially a visitor, then a daughter. The forest creatures didn't fear her, they greeted her. A leopard brushed past her ankle, an owl bowed its head, vines parted like a welcoming gate. The breeze whispered her name, not to summon, but to welcome her home. Nights turned to days, days into misty eternities. She found a hidden hollow, unreachable by trail, beneath ancient trees that bent like monks. A waterfall sang beside her moss-covered cave, moonlight filtering through leaves like stained glass. This was no ordinary place. The soil pulsed with memory, the air shimmered with something more, like living inside a dream that remembered it was real. Her clothes grew earth-stained, her feet toughened, her voice quieter but weightier, every word chosen by the forest itself. The world forgot her and she let it. Only a few remembered, a girl who paused too long near an empty bench, a janitor muttering, "That quiet one." She was different. But Sia belonged elsewhere now, somewhere beyond maps, where trees remembered sorrows, shadows carried secrets, and time was a spiral. She had learned how to walk its curves. In that sacred jungle, she was not orphaned but chosen. The world she left behind was no longer hers. Not really, not ever again. Shah didn't just survive in the jungle, she belonged. She built nothing, no shacks, no fire pits, no defiance, only adapted, letting the jungle teach, cradle, and claim her. Her food came from fruit trees lowering their branches, wild roots revealing themselves, deer leading her to hidden mushrooms. She drank from a stream like a silver serpent, bats singing lullabies, snakes coiled near her feet but never striking. Space itself obeyed her. One night, guided by a heartbeat buried beneath centuries of silence, she found a perfect circle of towering trees with nothing in the middle, just shimmering air. Not a portal, but a space where dreams drifted too long. She stepped through, her senses warped, sounds turned to colors, colors to thoughts, animals glowing with light she could hear. She understood fears in shadows, joy in waves, trees in memory. She entered the in-between, a rift between the jungle and something older than time, where dimensions overlapped like ripples. She could feel emotions of strangers, dream in unknown languages, once waking to find herself surrounded by silent fireflies. Time lost meaning. Days felt like centuries or a breath. She understood the jungle's true nature. It was a being, and it had chosen her as its voice, its daughter, its storm in waiting. The gateway was hers alone, sometimes opening too wide, revealing sights she couldn't understand. But she was not afraid. For the first time, Sia was seen, not as a misfit or burden, but as something necessary. Keeper of the forgotten, child of roots and silence, voice of a lost dimension alive in myth. And as she went deeper, she forgot the girl who once sat alone at school. That girl was gone. Something vast, watchful, and beautiful had taken her place. Shah had lived long enough in the forest, that time no longer passed. It grew, unfolding like a living tapestry. She knew when the mist was thinking, tasted sorrow in the dew. She didn't just walk through the woods, she walked with them. One night, the sky cracked, not with lightning, but with knowing, a hum like earth sighing. She stood beneath the ancient tree-ringed circle, the same place she first slipped beyond the veil, and the air felt different, denser, more urgent. The animals stayed away, the wind refused to move. A figure appeared, neither man nor beast nor spirit, but something older, shifting from a deer to a starlit silhouette. Its voice didn't echo, it echoed her. "Shah," it said without lips, "you are the fracture." She stood still, a single candle resisting night. This forest, this gate, was not meant to open so wide for so long. You are the hinge between two worlds. The passage breathes through you now. Her eyes fluttered. Inside, she already knew this, but knowing was one thing, choosing another. "If you stay," the voice warned, "the realms will collapse into each other. Your world will drown in this one. Nature's thoughts will spill into men, and men's greed into here. If you leave, it said softly, you seal it forever. But you will vanish. No memories, no songs, just breath on glass. The world will go on, unaware it was saved by a girl's silence. She looked at the leaning trees, recalling her mother's sighs, her bully's jeers, rejection's ache, power's thrill, abandonment's pain. But she also remembered the fox sitting silently, the waterfall whispering her name, the moment she felt truly seen, not by people, but by presence. She smiled faintly, tired but resolute. Let it close, she whispered, stepping back through the shimmered air, not toward her world, but between worlds. And then she was gone, neither dead nor alive nor remembered. Something in the forest shifted. The wind sighed softer, the trees no longer wept, and in a distant school a girl once bullied sat alone at lunch, feeling a warmth in her chest, like someone kind had passed by and smiled.